manage cities that are inclusive, safe, and environmentally friendly. Again, I think that other panels will also touch on this issue over the course of the 2 days. A large number of Indian towns and cities are booming economic centers, partly because they are endowed with enormous cultural assets that include heritage sites, living heritage, and a wealth of intangible cultures such as crafts, rituals, festivals, culinary and musical traditions also, and contemporary art forms. In India, this very vibrant cultural mix not only provides vitality to towns and cities, but it is also linked to the livelihoods of people. I'm sure we will have a chance to discuss that as well with some of our panelists. I want to mention here the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, which is an initiative that encourages urban development that actually leverages a city's cultural strengths. In India, thus far, there are 3 cities that are labeled Creative Cities of UNESCO: Jaipur, Varanasi, and Chennai, which have been designated more specifically for the central role played by art, craft, and music in local development. Jaipur's centuries-old legacy of crafts and folk art currently employs no less than 175,000 people, and has generated also a vibrant ecosystem of heritage festivals and tourism, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. In Varanasi and Chennai, historic musical traditions have given birth to flourishing music industries and networks of music festivals and academies. On the one hand, we see cultural sites, services, and art forms tend to enhance tourism, which has already been mentioned, I think, by Ambassador Kassosi already earlier this morning, leading to further livelihood opportunities for local populations. On the other hand, we see that they contribute to cultural well-being and help also build a sense of place within a distinct cultural identity. Indigenous cultural wisdom could also enhance communities' resilience to climate-related disasters. And here, very briefly, I'm coming to the end of my introduction. I just want to offer the example of the devastating floods in Kerala last August. UNESCO, together with other UN agencies, was involved in undertaking a post-disaster needs assessment, and we strongly recommended to the state government of Kerala a number of new measures post-flood, in particular the use of traditional building material for the reconstruction of indigenous housing. We made a number of recommendations, but this is the one that I would like to mention because the incorporation of these building techniques into the reconstruction strategy we felt was likely to help preserve the authenticity of local heritage. So there's a lot of ramifications that need to be taken into account. And I want to mention also the handicraft sector in India, estimated to be one of the largest sectors after agriculture in terms of employment. There again, the Joint Secretary mentioned it as well. It's very important to underline that. This particular sector tends to employ large numbers of women, and we need to consider this dimension when we talk about socio-economic development. The economic empowerment of women translates directly into a higher quality of life for families, in particular, with better nutrition and educational opportunities for children, and a chance for better livelihoods too. So, as India continues to explore innovative solutions to the challenges of quality housing, the creation of wealth, and the provision of infrastructure and services for over 1 billion citizens, the need to protect cultural identities and expressions, and also to recognize heritage as a pillar of sustainable social and economic development emerge as greater priorities than ever before. That is certainly the view from UNESCO. So in this session, we're going to try to examine the catalytic role of cultural heritage conservation for economic and social development in India. Our panelists will discuss certain initiatives they have been engaged in with in the context of the trends and challenges I have just outlined. These initiatives are part of the ongoing collaboration and jointly implemented flagship projects of EU member states and Indian organizations, and it's very good that the EU itself was able to call for this important gathering. The first speaker on our panel, we're going to have a series of short presentations, and then we will have interaction between panel members and, of course, with the audience. So the first speaker is going to be Cecilia Costa. She's currently Cooperation Manager of the European Union Delegation to India, in charge of, more specifically, implementation of EU external actions in India and Bhutan. She's been involved in development cooperation since 1989, first working with a network of European universities, promoting more specifically university exchanges with Latin America and Mediterranean countries. And later, since 1998, she's worked for the European Union, engaged in the promotion of institutional capacity building and capacity development. She's actually in India working for the second time since about a year and a half ago. So Cecilia, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not going to say my age. Okay. It's been some time. It's a pleasure being here. It's a pleasure being here and together with the practitioners of development, together with all of you who share our concerns and probably our positive ideas on how to go forward and how to preserve cultural heritage. In the EU, and I come more like within the EU perspective, trying to bring the European cultural heritage, or Europe's cultural heritage experience and bringing it to the context of India. So, as you know and heard, the European Union Cultural Heritage celebrates all that we have in common and what makes us different. That is basically what we want in Europe. This is probably most of the things that we also share with India, in diversity, in unity or unity in diversity. So throughout the years we have chosen to promote smarter ways to preserve and reuse heritage, to encourage more people to discover and engage with heritage, to reinforce a sense of belonging to a common space. We defend it, and that's why we are here also, cultural heritage as a value, a universal value for us as individuals, as communities and societies. So a value that is important to preserve and pass it on to the future generations. And we have a focus throughout the year on children, as they are the guardians of our heritage. One may think heritage has been from the past. I think India and Europe are witnesses that our heritage is indeed where our past meets our future. So in Europe we have chosen to work with cultural heritage not only within the EU but also in our external relations, including as part of our objectives to fulfill the Agenda 2030 and of course the sustainable goals, as Mr. Fato was just mentioning. And this recognizing that the value of cultural heritage has different dimensions. So we have the cultural, the physical, the digital, the environmental, the human and social, and the economic dimension of cultural heritage. We have heard that already in the opening speeches and just now at the introduction of this panel. As for the economic value of heritage, we know that it has only recently been recognized, but it is true that renovation and maintenance represents around a quarter of the value of Europe's construction industry. And there are enormous spillover effects, such as in helping to grant cities and visions, like for instance tourism is estimated to contribute 450 billion euros to the EU GDP, and 3.4 million tourism enterprises account for 16.2 million jobs, many of which are linked to heritage and the culture, be directly or indirectly. And one other point, saying that culture is an economic and social mover and development, 27% of EU travelers indicate that cultural heritage is a key factor in choosing their travel destination. And then we come with the use of technology, even more, which brings an even greater economic value to the heritage sector, since digitized cultural material can be used to enhance the visitor's experience, develop educational content, documentaries, tourism applications, and games. As we know it, digital technology has changed the way culture is created and stored and disseminated. Our EU ambassadors referred to Europeana, this European Digital Museum. And this is also contributing to job creation, skills development, as it is also the case in the regeneration of urban areas and cities as living spaces. This is also another byproduct of cultural heritage. So, as we agree, social heritage has an enormous capacity to promote social cohesion and integration. Heritage sites can become a medium space to promote community health and social capital. I think India is also an illustration of that, building social networks and trusts such as museums and libraries. Symbolically, sites also promote the common heritage of a group of citizens, and heritage is often linked to identity, memory, and often also healing when history is revisited for reconciliation purposes. Such is the case of a project EU is funding on the Education Center, the Center on the History of Slavery in Zimbabwe, Tanzania, in Zanzibar, in Tanzania, or the project on genocide in Rwanda. Internationally, the UN and its member states are active in multilateral fora and organizations, as is India. Such as, and with us, we have the Council of Europe, and we are also members of UNESCO, where we address cultural heritage policies and promoting policy dialogue on culture and management of cultural heritage. Currently, we are spending 50 million euros on cultural heritage through projects supporting tangible heritage, natural heritage in Central Africa, intangible heritage in Guinea-Bissau. I would just bring as examples projects that we are partnering with UNESCO, like the Silk Road Heritage Corridor between Central Asia, Afghanistan, and Iran. In Yemen, in partnership also with UNESCO, we support livelihood opportunities of youth to preserve and restore national cultural heritage, creating job opportunities in the restoration of heritage sites, the old city of Sana, the old city of Shibang, old town of David, and others. In Mosul, we will work with UNESCO again to preserve Iraq's cultural heritage, focusing on urban areas, seeking employment, income opportunities in the construction of buildings of culture and historical value. We are also partners with India, and since our early cooperation with India, we have been supporting projects linked to cultural heritage. One of the recent ones, and which we are very proud of having supported, is present here, the cultural heritage and management of the Venture Lab, which was implemented in Ahmedabad in a linkage between Capital and Ahmedabad institution. I will read the explanation of the project. They are not stealing your floor. So we are very, very happy and very proud of having supported this project, as Ahmedabad is also the first Indian city to be nominated in the list of the UNESCO World Heritage. And it boasts enormous amounts of heritage, with 57 protected monuments and a large number of traditional wooden tool houses, which 10,000 still survive despite of the urban pressures, urbanization pressure. So basically, this project aims at strengthening capacities and improving the potential of the local population benefit from their cultural heritage sites. And so, without willing to go into too much detail about it, I'll just like to highlight that 150 young people and professionals are architects and skilled workers benefited from the project and participated in seminars, workshops related to cultural management and heritage. And we promoted a set of public-private entities from Gujarat, India, and Guadeloupe, Spain, to in their campaigns of promoting value of cultural heritage management. So here we have the example of networking, capacity building, building entities together, bringing experiences from Europe to India on how to improve and better benefit from our heritage and considering social and economic development. Beyond that, we also did another project, which I thought we would have a brochure about it, but no. So it was called Ethno Magic Going Global. This was focusing on folk and creative industries, benefiting poor and marginalized rural and tribal communities in the area. So from this project, Ethno Magic Going Global, 3,200 folk artists participated. So this includes Chow and Jumu dancers, Jumuria singers, Papuas, Baals, and Fakirs. They were given technical know-how, and the main purpose was that they could manage rural and micro enterprises and resource centers, offering cultural products and services, including heritage tourism services. So again, we were trying to benefit the rural and more remote areas, and this was all done with the funds from what we have as an instrument for development cooperation, where the last or the ultimate goal is to contribute to poverty alleviation. On a more holistic view, the project illustrates different dimensions of heritage and underlying the preservation and encouraging and supporting the value as a driver, as the value of heritage as a driver for development is dynamic action to understand how the creativity of the past has contributed to build our present civilization. And this is why the EU-India strategy, as our ambassador mentioned in the beginning, we emphasize the importance of cooperation and exchanges between the culture and creative sectors in the EU and India, including through promoting city-to-city cooperation and Creative Europe programs, engaging in more joint activities for cultural heritage, preservation, and promotion. The good news is that in the next new financial framework, 2021-2027, will emphasize the key role of education and culture in combating intolerance, exclusivity, radicalization, and any form of discrimination, but also as a social economic development element and factor. Culture can be an important means for promoting global citizenship, diversity, fundamental values, mutual understanding, and dialogue. And as creative industries are also one of our highest global growth rates, it is a sector where we think there is a strong potential to go forward. We are therefore looking forward to strengthening our cooperation in India and with our partners as we take the implementation of this strategy forward, in particular enhancing sustainable and economic growth prospects. Thank you.
And they are known for their exquisite craftsmanship and Rekha style of temple architecture. So, following this nomination of UNESCO, in 1998, state government got together to make a conservation and sustainable development strategy for Khajuraho Heritage Region. In the red circle, you can see Rajnagar, and in the yellow circle is the Khajuraho. So that's the first report which mentioned these Bundeli Bagh, the Bundeli Gardens. I will keep calling them Bundeli because they are Bundelkhand, they are from Bundelkhand, and that's how they're called as. And then we come across Rajnagar, which has these 15 royal gardens in a perimeter of 3 kilometers. We were rather amazed by this, let's say, discovery, and to see that such an urban planning and such sophisticated garden architecture exists in the 18th century from this rather remote part of India, which is not very unknown to Indian civilization. We have been talking from Upvan since 2nd century BCE in Arthashastra, and now we have come to Bagh. Upvan basically is a Sanskrit word which means a miniature of a forest. So if you understand it, within the Indian context, the garden always represented something you are trying, a nature tamed to your will, which became very geometrical later with the advent of Persian ideas. And that is on the same line that we have these royal gardens of Khajur. This is Rani Bagh, which is the queen's garden. Rani means queen, Bagh means garden. And a typical Bundeli garden, because not many people know about it, would consist of a gateway and a boundary wall, which is quite an expenditure for that time. A Bauli and a step well for rituals, a temple, mostly Shiva temple, and a koti to store the tents, because they would pitch tents in the garden, a draw well, irrigation channel as was a gradient, and a samadhi or the cenotaph of the royal member of the family who has been cremated there. These gardens were also used as a caravanserai for the people traveling from the rather dry area of Bundelkhand from one place to another. They would pitch tents and also do their daily rituals and leisure activities around these stepwells and the garden premises. We found these gardens not only in Rajnagar but all across the region, from Tikamgarh to Chhatarpur to Rajnagar to Panna. And also we have archival evidences of these gardens in Banda, Bijawar, and also in Datia. So if we try to connect all these gardens together, we have this historical cultural route which spans across 70 kilometers or 140 kilometers sometimes. In 2004, Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage started this very humble project with this bicycle. There was a person going around spreading awareness about these gardens, and that's how we progressed on it. The project was based on this 4-pillar approach, which was economic, social, cultural, and environmental. This is a diagram from this recent report from Europa Nostra, thank you, and which basically places cultural heritage in the heart of the development in a very upstream manner. Immediate take on it was environmental, because these gardens were produced gardens and not leisure gardens primarily. So the first was to start introducing traditional ways of rejuvenating the soil, because these gardens were rather barren and were known as often deserted and were privately owned. If I've forgotten to mention already, the gardens we are working on are still privately owned, and we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the owners, which is a very dynamic process, because the owners sometimes get upset with the work if it does not go in the way they like, because it's rather sometimes conservative. So, and then we also have organic farming. So there's a dynamic conservation approach where we do crop rotation, and behind you can see we also try to do agroforestry, because this is the only thing which is supported in this area. Hence, supporting the traditional knowledge systems of the region and looking at heritage as a bigger perspective as knowledge systems and not as built heritage per se. These organic produce are used by the farmers, and they are also sold in organic outlets. We are India, so very much part of organic agriculture is the cow, and that's why we consider cow as holy, because cow gives us manure and also process the fodder that makes the soil fertile and leading to organic agriculture, which is very healthy product. Another thing, for that cow, we made a cow shed in this Rani Bagh, the Queen's Garden, and this process was quite interesting because we provided drawings in Hindi to the local community. The local community put these things together. The tiles you see on the top are handcrafted by a potter who stays right next to the garden, and from the soil of the garden itself, baked on the site. So it was a very organic and in a way vernacular process. This did change our design, which was not really, we lived with it. And then the second part of this project is this seed, which is the first link to the food chain. And we started spreading awareness about the local seeds and the local biodiversity, because this is the knowledge which is getting lost very, very rapidly owing to the genetically modified varieties, which often produce a better harvest, but leaves the farmer very dependent on this, if I may say, mafia. And then we established quickly a seed bank, so it was a bank of its kind, where the local farmers would come in, they can loan these original seeds, local seeds from this area, and in return, when they get a nice harvest, they have to return 25% interest rate. It was a very high interest rate, but nevertheless, they were very happy to do it because it gave them a certain self-reliance in the way that things did not otherwise. If you know about Bundelkhand and have been following recent news, there have been a lot of farmer suicides because they end up taking loan to buy urea and genetically modified seeds, and because of drought conditions, they often have a bad harvest. So the project looks at that aspect as well. Another social aspect, coming to the social part, also that we have this organic farming training going on in the garden, and then trying to spread awareness about that how we can advance in organic agriculture as well, not just keeping the same traditions, but also going a step beyond to cater to the needs and also to the produce, because in the end, it comes to the produce. The farmer wants to know how much can he or she produce. And in this case, we answer all these questions and we try to address all the queries there. Another part of it that we have these local school kids coming over, we tell them about organic farming and also their own Bundeli heritage, which gets shadowed sometimes because of the Khajuraho temples from 9th century. Bundeli heritage is primarily 17th, 18th century, which is much more near to the people there. We also organize a stakeholders conference, so regularly to engage the local authorities, the local hoteliers, and the people, the farmers as well, into engaging discussions about how to go ahead using these cultural and natural heritage assets, where they become the core of the driving force for the sustainable development of the region. Economy-wise, this also provides food and livelihood security. As I mentioned, these products are sold also at the organic outlets. And the harvest from the garden here, you can see ladies collecting the nitrogen fixation gram crop and using it as fodder for the cattle. Of course, this project has been generating since 14 years employment for a lot of families around, directly and indirectly. So we still have them as continuation, and often sometimes there's a rotation of staff, and sometimes there's people continue. Most of the people have continued to work with us currently. Coming to the cultural part, which is slightly I'm more comfortable with because I'm a conservation architect. This project also including reinstating the statue of Shiva in the temple, because the Shivling was stolen from the temple or was not there. So after reinstating the Shiva in Rani Bagh, we come to know that the Rani of, the current queen of Chhatarpur also came down to visit this opening ceremony, or we call it as Pran Pratishtha, which is giving soul to the statue we are putting inside the temple. And what she came was very revealing, because we came to know these spaces are very spaces for women, especially Rani Bagh and Nazar Bagh. These are two gardens which are found all across Bundelkhand, which were dedicated especially to women. So all these rituals around it focused on women, and thus we ended up giving them their own space where they would come for their daily rituals. And we have the maintenance is automatic. We don't maintain the temple anymore. The temple is taken care by the community. Another part of it is organizing music concert, the lady music concert at Rani Bagh, because this is also another dying craft. So after every training session, we organize these Bundeli music concerts, also at the request of tourists and guests. And this brings to food. So this is very local food, and it basically comes from the gardens itself. And there's something called kaise ki chutney, jaggery, and grilled aubergine or bharta, and then the roti, which is right from there, and the lentils and the salad. We try to serve it in the most organic way possible. The more comfortable part for me is the built heritage conservation. So coming to that, we have been involved with that project since quite long. We started restoring the Koti, which was in a very bad state, and we were able to restore it to a decent looking structure, and which is still used by the farmers to store grains and more things. Other aspect we are looking at is landscape restoration on the basis of oral history, because we have very less archival records. So we are contacting the community and more people to gather information, and then we restored the landscape accordingly. For example, here we have flower gardens also. We did not know about this part before. If we put it together, we are trying to reach sustainable development through these projects with various overlapping aspects of it and different aspects which can address all the parts of it. And but there are certain challenges of this project clearly, that there are droughts because of recent climate change phenomena as well, more recurring droughts in this area. So we are trying to fight it and looking at traditional water catchment system right from 9th century, trying to make ponds so that to raise the water level to at least let the tree survive, if not the crop. Though there are certain varieties of local crop which survive the drought, so it's very excellent for that. Other challenges also because it's landscape, it's very difficult to control landscape encroachment, and these are privately owned. So this is Khan Kabad, the owner is Khan, and then it was something like this in 2010, and now we have something like that. So hence the project is called the Lost Gardens of Khajuraho, because these are getting really quickly lost. And not to mention, there's another challenge which we face is local team capacity building. Every time we train a person, the person goes to a bigger city to work, and we have to train them again, which is actually okay, very great. Not great for the project, but not great for us, but great for the society in general. And now we are looking at scaling up the modalities for the rural transformation here and trying to broaden the area to a bigger geographic area, trying to take up different types of case studies, so where we can also interpret this model, and working in cooperation with different kind of stakeholders, and hopefully working with different kind of partners, maybe cross-country and cross-state, to deal with these gardens. For example, there are such gardens in Maharashtra and Aurangabad as well. Part of it is also opening a visitor center in one of the gardens, Pateria Kabad, where we try to take inspiration from the local architecture, and we create an interpretation center, giving them the feel of Bundelkhand and the same Kothi as we had before. The future vision is, of course, that we have these center of biodiversity excellence and organic agriculture all across Bundelkhand, where you can have Bundeli food, do bike rides from one place to another, and experience the local culture, have music there, and this becomes a part of the pro-poor tourism strategy for the state, thereby helping in general of poverty reduction and poverty alleviation. Thank you.